I really encourage people to also get clarity about your anti-customer or your anti-lead or your anti-deal, right? Like, who is that person or, that type of situation that you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole? And then how, through all of your messaging on your website, social media, et cetera, make it really clear that you are for this ideal person and you're not for this other person, right? Like, make that stuff really clear, and that's going to help too. That pulls the right people closer towards you, and it weeds out those others so you don't even have to waste time on the people that aren't going to be a good fit for you to begin with.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Evergreen Marketing Podcast by Carrot.com, where we help you build a business of freedom and impact by helping you get more leads and close more deals. I'm your host, Brady, and today I've got my good friend and coworker, Mallory, back on the podcast, and we're talking about, obviously, you read the title, how AI is changing SEO, because we're getting tons of questions on this. Is it still viable for lead gen? What's going to happen? And most importantly, what you need to be doing on your website and off your website to keep up. We're going to start kind of heady, theoretical, and then we're going to get into the meat of it as well so you can walk away with what to do. It's going to be a good time. So Mallory, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Brady. I'm excited to be here. It's been a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a little minute. Before we get rolling, a tip that actually works. I stumbled on this. Somebody told me about this last week. When you're using ChatGPT, simple little thing you can add on to the end of your prompt is ask it if it has everything it needs from you to give you the best output. So if it's a good prompt to start out with, it should know what you're trying to achieve, not just, hey, write a blog post, but hey, write a blog post that sells people on X or convinces people on the idea of X in an honest way, something like that. And then say, do you have everything you need to write this blog post? Is there any more data or research or information or context that I could give you that would be helpful? So just an idea there. Hey, ChatGPT, do you have everything you need? That's been working really well for me. Anyways, let's get into it. Mallory, the sentiment, I'm sure you're hearing the same thing. The sentiment around AI right now, some people are scared, anxious, panicky, like, am I going to lose rankings? Am I going to lose clicks? Am I going to lose traffic? I think the bottom line is like, is AI killing SEO? Is SEO dead, as marketers like to say? Or is it still a viable way to generate motivated seller leads for investors this year?
I think that SEO is changing, right? It's no longer just Google if we're talking about that. I think for so long we talk about SEO, and even though there's historically been Bing or DuckDuckGo or these other search engines, if you talk about SEO, you're usually just talking about Google.
Yeah.
And now it's more that people are searching in such completely different ways, right? It reminds me kind of when I was first starting my digital marketing career is when voice search was just starting to happen. And that's when we really started to see the beginning of like semantic language and people asking those search questions in different variations, right? Not as much of the exact keyword stuffing of like old school SEO. You had to start thinking about entities and synonyms and variations on keyword phrases. And now it's like that times a million, because now people are asking these very, very long form questions, kind of in the same way that you were giving that ChatGPT tip, right? They're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or AI mode in Google itself to ask these complex questions that it's not just like this one simple little thing. They're trying to really solve a lot of problems all at the same time. So it's really about one of my favorite SEO thought leaders, Mike King, who's from iPullRank. He's the guy that all the Google leak stuff got sent to last year in May of 2024.
Yeah.
He's been talking a lot about relevance engineering and how that's really how we need to be thinking about it, right? And I think that is a good sort of framework and idea of how to think about it, instead of just optimizing for search, which I've heard a lot of people in this SEO industry saying like, that was never a great descriptor of what SEO actually was, right? You are really, at the end of the day, you're trying to make sure that your online content, your website content, your brand visibility throughout the internet is optimized in a way that you're getting found by the right people, no matter how they're looking for you or somebody who does what you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What was the phrase you used? Relevance engineering. Tell me about that.
Yeah, relevance engineering, right? And so I think too, some of the things that started to come out with this Google leak of last year of 2024 was the importance of brand, was the importance of brand mentions across multiple platforms, right? So backlinks, actual hyperlinks to your website, that's still important in this age of AI and, AI overviews and all that stuff. And what's also important is being mentioned by brand name throughout different places across the web, right? Because if somebody searches for what's the best solution, I'm in this foreclosure situation, what should I do as a homeowner who's having a foreclosed property? They, if ChatGPT is saying Brady Buys Houses is the best solution in your local market, then they might go back to the search engine, search for you by name, right? But they might also just talk about like broad answers to that question. And so you want to be mentioned by name, right? That's often how people are getting the leads coming through from ChatGPT or some of these AI tools.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like that. That makes sense. I want to kind of debunk the thought of like SEO is going away specifically for motivated sellers, because I think some investors are thinking like right now, are sellers still going to be searching, or is how they're changing searching? But sellers aren't searching like a motivated seller isn't searching. Should I sell my house fast? Like they already know what they want to do if they're truly motivated. And so they're still looking for, they're Googling like sell my house fast. And see, I got to stop typing now when I say they're Googling, because we're just voice searching. I'm just hitting the mic thing on my keyboard and just talking to my phone or computer. Anyways, they're searching for like sell my house fast in Roseburg, Oregon. And so they're still, we see in the data in the back end of Carrot, there's still high intent searches happening consistently. It's like people are still motivated to sell their home. And so that's not changing. But yeah, you need to make sure that you're doing the right things across all your marketing to be mentioned in AI search. And so I just want to, that feels obvious when I say it, but I feel like some people aren't thinking that. Like search behavior, motivated sellers aren't going away. They're not going to stop asking.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something that I also want to call out is like really understanding and creating helpful information, website content, but also potentially, social media content getting mentioned in press and PR, for all of the different stages of a customer journey or a buyer or seller journey, right?
Yeah.
So that's like one of the fundamentals of marketing is that you don't just have this person who's immediately at the point where they are ready to do the deal or become your lead, right?
Yeah.
They go through this whole journey of having awareness of their problem, right? They suddenly are like, they have a situation and they need to solve this problem, but they don't know what all the possible solutions are. So that's when somebody's asking those like much broader questions about what are my options if I'm in foreclosure, right? Like, what should I do? And then they get to the point where they've sort of locked in on some potential solutions. Then they're starting to like dig deeper. They're starting to ask those questions about like specific home buyers or specific realtors or, specific solutions to that problem that they've identified.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're like possibly filling out a form on your website, but probably not just on your website. They're probably submitting their information to a couple of your competitors. I was just on a call earlier with John, who leads up our CRM team, right? And just like he said, that these people, they're not just going to find you and you're going to immediately be the solution to their problem. They're likely filling out forms on multiple people's websites or calling multiple people to, figure out what the best solution, who's going to give them the best deal, who's going to take care of them the best. And I think that's true for any big ticket purchase or sale, right? Whether it's a home or a car. I used to work in residential solar. That's a huge purchase as well. And people are not just going to pick the first option just because Google says it or just because ChatGPT tells them to. I think most people want to make sure that they're making the right decision. And so how do you help solve their problem ultimately, but help them make sure that they have all the information that they need to feel safe to even call you in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. One of the other things along those lines, I think, is that there's a lot of people are just cranking out AI generated content right now, and people are getting it's AI slop. Like now the term is going around. It's AI slop everywhere, and you see that in videos, you see it in social posts, you see it on LinkedIn. Oh my goodness, I'm so tired of it. But you see it on blog posts and pages too. And so to me, I love your thoughts on this, but to me that means that yeah, there is more competition, but also I think it raises the bar for trust. And so to me, I'm like, you need real. We'll talk about, we'll get into the weeds on this, but it means you need more real stories in your content, not just generalized information. That's where EAT comes in, Google's EAT, and video, like beat the dead horse, like over and over, like people doing video are winning,
Yeah.
It's no longer like, oh, that's the competitive edge. It's becoming more and more just the standard, because anyone can like fool people with AI generated content with some lazy prompting. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Like real stories and video.
I think the bar is absolutely getting raised higher and higher. And I think that people who've been able to skate by on, lazy efforts and quick fixes and stuff, it's just getting harder. And I think that's true just as the internet continues to sort of grow. Right? Like whether it's your website or whether you want to be a YouTube influencer or something, there's just more competition, period. And that's always going to raise the bar. But especially as people are able to just immediately whip out this AI slop, as you called it, which I agree.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of people have become more suspicious about is this real or is this AI?
Yeah.
Like what's true anymore?
Yeah. We're not too far out from content being labeled as human generated. I don't think we're too far from that.
Yeah.
It's already started with AI generated. It's not going to be long before it's like, this is human generated. And our eyes and brains are going to be looking for, is this real?
Yeah. And I think this is another area where brand really comes in, right? So earlier I was talking about brand in terms of getting mentioned by brand name, right? So like Brady Bites Houses mentioned by name, whether on, you're a guest on somebody else's podcast or YouTube channel, whether you get pulled on the local news as a local expert, that kind of stuff is great for credibility and brand. But another aspect of brand is you having a distinctive voice and point of view. Right. Yeah. And I don't think we think about this as much maybe in this real estate investor space, but maybe if you think about a completely different industry, right? Think about, I don't know, like fashion brands, like shoes or something, right? Like there's like sneakers, there's luxury shoes, there's all of these different types of brands, even though they technically all sell the same thing. They're just things to wear on our feet, right? But they're all like very different price points. They're for very different types of people. And they often have very different voices that they use to communicate with customers and people, like whether they're purchasing in store and having an actual physical, conversation with a salesperson, or the brand that they use to communicate online. And so I think that the more you can dig into what makes you and your business unique from your competitors, and really amplify that uniqueness, that's good branding.
Yeah.
Right?
Which in order to do that, it's hard to do it without like real stories and video and actually getting into your content and caring about it versus just saying, oh, I need to get informational content out there for the sake of SEO.
Yeah. And it could be other things too, right? Like I'm thinking about earlier this summer, we rolled out Carrot's new AI rewrite tool. So we had a AI rewrite tool previously, but this is like a complete overhaul. So now you can rewrite a full page at a time.
Yeah.
And you can have it do different prompts for like, shorter, longer, like specific types of prompting. But one of the cool additions here was that we added a new feature in the settings where you can give it basic prompts about your brand. It's like a super open text field. You can prompt it as much as you want. We have a linked up at our help center. We have a little AI kind of chat bot that if you're not sure about your brand and how you're uniquely positioned compared to your competitors, you can kind of use this little chatbot tool to walk you through those questions and then just like copy and paste what it gives you into your site settings and use that to rewrite. But So one of the things when I think about brand voice, as I was testing out this new AI rewrite tool with our product team, I created one of my test sites that I think I called it Magnolia Home Buyers. And I grew up in the South. I live in South Mississippi now, right?
Yeah.
And I gave it sort of some super over the top brand voice guidelines. I was like, say y'all, say lots of Southern aphorisms, like just go hog wild, as it were. And when I use
are you building the site up so you can sell it to Chip and Joanna Gaines? Is that the goal, Magnolia?
Well, there you go. We could do that. But I was really just doing it as a test to see like what would happen if I gave it some really kind of extreme prompting, right? And I had to do the rewrite, and it was like it was sweet tea this, and like sitting on the front porch in the summertime this, and it was. Again, it was a test and an experiment. It's not something that like I would actually do, but that actually might work for some people, right? We've seen that a lot of the Carrot members who have a really strong point of view, right? Like it's coming to mind is Laurel Buys Houses out of Sacramento. And she has this hat that she wears. And if you look on her website, search Laurel Buys Houses right now, you'll see her picture. People in that area know her. They know her hat. They know her vibe, right? And they trust her. And so that doesn't mean that you need to go copy that. That means that you need to figure out what makes you unique. That means you need to figure out why you're doing what you do in the first place and communicate that to help build trust, right? It's like Simon Sinek and the whole start with why thing, right? He talked about in that famous TEDx talk, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. People don't want to sell a house to you like versus somebody else, like just because you're I don't know, ChatGPT said so. They want to do it because they trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's even at that level, like if you have 3 home buyers and let's say you can trust all of them, you're like, who do I go with? After that, if you have 3 good offers from 3 good people you trust, then it's just pick your flavor. And that's where it's what you're talking about. It's like your brand, your style, your flavor. So going with someone like Laurel, who's just like super chill, soft-spoken, leisurely, take your time with conversations, versus some people, I'm thinking like Texas. I'm thinking like RJ Bates comes to mind in Dallas. He's like hard closer, like straight to the point, no nonsense. And some people really appreciate that. It's just cut and dry, straightforward. And so that's kind of what I think when it's like, your brand, your flavor.
Yeah. And so let me just dig into another brand thing, because I think that the talking about RJ versus Laurel, and they're very different flavors of investors, right?
Yeah.
One tip that I like to give people of any industry, if you're thinking about branding, part of that is your ideal client or customer, right? But sometimes people get tripped up on that because they want to lean into, well, everybody's my ideal client or customer. I want to help anybody that reaches out. I want to help any lead. But I really encourage people to also get clarity about your anti-customer or your anti-lead or your anti-deal, right? Like, who is that person or, that type of situation that you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole? And then how, through all of your messaging on your website, social media, et cetera, make it really clear that you are for this ideal person and you're not for this other person, right? Like, make that stuff really clear. And that's going to help too. That pulls the right people closer towards you and it weeds out those others. So you don't even have to waste time on the people that aren't going to be a good fit for you to begin with.
Yeah. Well, and it's also giving AI and Google the right context, especially as AI search advances even more. I think that's going to be super important.
Yeah. Well, and these AI tools, like they often are learning a lot about our personalities, right? And so they're going to be giving very personalized recommendations. Google's been doing versions of this for a long time, right? Like if you search something and I search something, it's knowing our Chrome data when we're logged in. It's still trying to give us a personalized answer. All of this AI stuff is just taking that way further.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking forward ahead in the future when it's like, here's your personalized recommendations for the best house buyer near you. And it might be spot on. It's interesting. Okay, let's talk about what needs to change on page specifically. To me, I'm like, let's get the technical on page stuff out of the way because the off page, it is more important. And we'll talk about why, because you have a strong stance on this, which I think is just spot on. But on page, content needs to be specific. So what I'm seeing is like it needs to answer specific questions. So like, FAQ format, Q&A format, I see those getting cited in AI search much more often. Again, not generalized content, but answering specific questions, hyper local, hyper relevant, experience backed, real stories of sellers you've actually helped. What else would you say about on page as far as like what's in the content?
Yeah, I was just reading an article today on Search Engine Land. It was this guy, it's Garrett French from Citation Labs. He spoke recently at SMS Advanced, and he termed this one thing flukes, FLUQS, friction inducing latent unasked questions. So these are the kind of questions that it's such I think he just made it up. I think it was like, I'm going to make up this term and get known for it. But basically the idea is that, so if we're thinking about that buyer journey or that, customer journey, what are the questions that they're not even thinking to ask Google or AI that might be objections or pain points? Right. Yeah. And if you've done a few deals, you probably know some of these from the sales process, but are you communicating those questions in the content on your website? Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we think about the frequently asked questions, now it's been super easy for a number of years to go to Google, type in your, sell my house fast in whatever area and see what are Google saying are the people also asked questions and use those as the frequently asked questions. So that's like the top level. People are often asking those questions. But what are the other things that are sort of like in the back of their minds that they're not even sure how to formulate them, but might be an objection to going through a deal with you?
Yeah.
Right?
Is Brady Buys Houses a scam? Maybe.
Well, there's that. But so he gave this example of they were working with a like online education program, I think like a college or something, right? And so in the example was an FAQ would be, how much money, who pays, like are there scholarships, for example. But some of the unasked questions might be things like, okay, I qualify, but does that mean I'm actually ready for this program? Right? If it's people, mid-career going back to school for like a postdoc or something like that. What will this degree actually have me make more money? Or am I just going to be having this degree for just the shiny degree and it doesn't actually pay my bills?
A good fit? Yeah.
Right. Also questions like who watches the kids while I study for the next 18 months? Right. Yeah. So these like very psychographic questions that are on people's mind. And I really think that if you've done a good sales process at asking those questions when you actually get on the phone with them, you probably know some of these. But are you addressing them in your content, whether on your website content itself, and where you address them probably depends on the actual pain point or objection or question, right? It might be on a specific topic page. Like if it's specifically related to foreclosure, maybe this is diving deep and answering that on that page, right? Maybe it's also answering it via social media content, YouTube content, where you're answering that in a way that also builds trust, that you've dealt with people in a situation like theirs before, right? This isn't your first rodeo helping somebody out of foreclosure.
Yeah. Interesting. So that makes me want to ask, is are blogs still worth it? How important are blogs compared to how important they've been in the past with AI?
Yeah. I mean, I think blog content or other, whether you post it as a blog or as a page, doesn't really matter necessarily, right? But like, I think all of that content can still be worth it. And I could see that those types of pages may not be getting the same level of direct traffic from search engines as in the past. And yet you can still leverage that type of content in other ways.
Yeah.
So, for example, I have a friend who's a yoga therapist, and I was talking through some marketing strategy for her, right? And she doesn't have a lot of content yet, and she wants to get referrals. A lot of her, business would come via referrals from other therapists who are working with people, that she could help further. And so what I was encouraging for that was to like create some video and written kind of blog content to kind of share those case studies, explain those stories about how she helps people, what that process of helping people looks like, right?
Yeah.
So even if the way people are getting to the blog post or the pages isn't as much through direct search and just like finding it in Google, you can still be sending those to people directly. You can still be using that as part of your marketing and sales process. That doesn't change. That content is still useful. And one of the other things too is that we've seen more and more over the last few years, everything is increasingly fragmented. The way people use internet spaces is so much more fragmented than it used to, right? We think a lot about this in terms of television. You know, in the 70s or 80s when MASH was on, everybody tuned in to watch like the finale of MASH. That's never going to happen again because now we have a million different ways to watch things. And I think online spaces are the same thing. And so a lot of conversations, a lot of the word of mouth referrals are happening in what we might call dark social or like behind the scenes in ways that are really hard to track.
Not the dark web, to clarify.
Yeah, not the dark web. I've heard it in certain marketing spaces. So like what I've heard referred to as dark social would be something like in a direct message on Instagram, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, right?
Yeah. Like
you're sharing information, whether in a one-on-one chat conversation with a friend or a family member, right? Or in a small group chat. Lots of private Slack channels, right? Even at Carrot, we have Slack, and don't we all share links and information with each other? And does that get easily attributed back to that person's like website analytics and Google Analytics? Not so much, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these conversations are happening that way. Private Discord channels, private communities, you know? And so
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Facebook, who doesn't give a crap about anyone's privacy, to be selling off that data. What's in DMs? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're making money off of it, but whether we actually see those attributions or not as the end users is another question, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's, you know, like, I think it's so important to really consider like a holistic marketing and business strategy and how you communicate with people in every way, shape, and form that makes sense for your ideal people, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's exactly where I wanted to take it. So this idea of like omni-channel marketing is more important now than ever, period. But also for the sake of AI, for getting mentioned in AI overviews and in ChatGPT sources. The question is why? Why is this important? Which something I forgot to mention was we're already seeing Carrot members get some leads through ChatGPT. I've seen, you know, we've acquired customers now, members through ChatGPT as well. Just people going to ChatGPT. So it's already happening for anyone that's curious. But like, why is holistic marketing important in the context of AI?
So I think these AI models, it's back to that relevance engineering thing that I mentioned earlier, right? They're parsing through all of this information from all over the place, and they're trying to do a better version of what the search engines have been doing for a long time, which is serve up the best, most relevant answer to the people asking that question, right?
Yeah.
And so as they're looking through everything, they're not just looking at just your website, right? Same thing with like backlinks have always played a part in this, but we saw with the Google leak in May of last year that Google already was looking beyond just backlinks. They were looking at things like brand name mentions in YouTube comments to, you know, influence their search rankings even before AI mode and all of this stuff, right? This is before that. Looking at things like, you know, are you mentioned in local media, not just hyperlinked, but are you mentioned by name in that local news story or whatever, right? And all of those are signals of that relevance, but also the trust and credibility. So it's really like, it makes complete sense to me because I've sort of always taken a big picture, holistic overview to marketing. Anytime people get too hyper focused on just backlinks alone, sort of sends off warning flags to me, right? Anytime you get too hyper focused on any single marketing channel or tactic is very precarious ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've like been internet addicted for more years than I really want to say. Right. Like, so I've seen platforms come and go.
Yeah.
And I've seen platforms change dramatically in the results that businesses are able to get from them, right? Like I remember when it was like the golden day of Facebook and people could just create a Facebook page and you got all of this like free publicity and free traffic. And then Facebook, rightly so, needed to make a profit off of this platform that they built. And now we've gone so many steps past that, right? But it's really about making yourself or your business known and visible and being remembered, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's the brand thing.
Being memorable. Yeah. Not just content for the sake of content, but it actually has to have value to it and it has to be memorable.
Yeah. And that's back to the point of view and the like having a distinct voice, like that creates memorability.
Yeah. So a really good example of that is this last week, at the time of recording this, Instagram started showing, they started showing Instagram content in Google search, or allowing your Instagram content to be scrubbed by Google to show up in search. I went in to turn it on to Carrot in our settings the other day, and it was already on by default. Maybe because we're a business page, I don't know, but that's something worth checking. But it adds to what you're saying. Like Google's looking all over the internet. They're looking for as much context as they can. Like where else does this business exist online? And offline, they can't tell exactly where you are offline all the time, but like what traffic is coming from offline, Are these people doing billboards, radio, TV ads? We've had Jeremy Resmer talk about this a couple times, but like driving so much traffic from offline sources is one of the best things you can do for your online presence. So
if people are knowing you by name and going to search you by name and then your website's coming up, like what a strong signal that sends to any search engine or, AI model. Like if you're going to ChatGPT and asking, hey, tell me more about Brady or tell me more about Mallory, right? Like,
And that's also where I'll do like cite your sources, because ChatGPT likes to sometimes just make stuff up or tell you what you want to hear. So I'm like, okay, tell me the sources for this, which is a good way to figure out like where, if you're doing keyword research or diving into SEO, is a good way, at least I think, to figure out where it's pulling things from. Like where is it important to show up online? You can reverse engineer by looking at the citations in ChatGPT and Google. Okay, so we talked about omnichannel, holistic marketing. You need to be in multiple places. Backlinks. I feel like backlinks are more important than ever. Like quality, relevant backlinks are more important.
Yeah, I would caveat it with that. The quality, relevant, like localized backlinks versus I've never been a fan of just get as many backlinks as you can with no concern about whether it has anything to do with your website or not. Like that was never something I would have recommended, but more than ever, it really is about creating that, again, relevance engineering, right? That's basically what this is like, how do you send all the signals about what location you're based in, what type of people you are serving, what type of problems you are solving, right? And those backlinks should help to do that. They should help to create those like correlations and contextual clues for people about like connecting the dots, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're based in, Portland, Oregon, then in theory, you should have other, hopefully maybe a press mention from one of the local Portland, Oregon news magazines or TV or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Even just, mentioning about getting mentioned by name in like the ChatGPT and the other AI models. I recently had somebody reach out to ask me to be on her podcast. We're recording in a few weeks. And I was like, how did you find me? And she mentioned that she had just used ChatGPT to ask about a bunch of like women entrepreneurs in New Orleans. And my name came up because I've spent years creating online presence for myself and like being in local press and doing all sorts of things. And it was over many, many years. But I am sure like it made perfect sense to me that when she said that's how she found me. You know what I mean? Because I've created this like archive of things pointing back to me.
Yeah.
But now I can't escape, but that's another
right. Yeah. You've left a breadcrumb trail. Right. Which if you Google me, it's just all Carrot stuff now.
Yeah.
What do you think of this? So I saw it, Ryan Dawsey, Carrot member. Most people I feel like probably know him just through his different companies, but his main company is focused on right now Sold Fast Realty. It's got a Carrot site for it. I saw recently he got a backlink. I think it was, he'll correct me if I'm wrong on this if he hears it. I think it was Better Homes and Gardens, but it was a quote from, big deal. Got a quote from his contractor, somebody on his team that works on their projects about, it was about like tips for deck maintenance and stuff. And it was like why you should have something under your potted plants on your deck to prevent deck rot. And it was just like a little short quote excerpt from a guy on Ryan's team, and Better Homes and Gardens picked it up. I thought that was really interesting. What do you think about backlinks like that? Like it's not, I don't think that one was local specific, but like that's a super big domain.
Yeah. Well, and that's still, the context is relevant, right? Because it's about homes. It's about how do you prevent homes from falling into disrepair, like preventing deck rot specifically in that case. Yeah. Right. Because the idea is that Ryan and his team would be people who are knowledgeable about what happens when homes fall into disrepair, because they have to help people in those situations to, get out of them in theory. Right. If I'm connecting the dots as a person, that's the same kind of dots that the AI models would be connecting. Right. It's not like it's a fashion website or something. Right.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I saw that and I was like, dang, that's a good play. And I can't remember if it was linking to content on their website or if it was like a Haro pitch or something like that they picked up. I was thinking probably a PR pitch that they found.
Yeah. That definitely sounds like something that was probably, help a reporter out or, I know Peter Shankman, who was the original founder of Help a Reporter Out, he had another one that he relaunched recently. There's a few of them now, those sites to get like PR and publicity.
Nice. Well, Ryan or anyone on his team, if you're listening to this, let me know how that backlink's working out and what it was. Okay, so we talk about backlinks. I feel like another thing to mention with showing up in AI search, and this is not just a big pitch for Carrot, but this is true. You need a fast, well-optimized website that's searchable, crawlable with good UI and good UX. Even if you just do your own searches in Google and ChatGPT, you'll notice it's not pulling content from crappy websites. It's just not. You can have it'll say like in ChatGPT, cited 15 sources and like, here's all the links it pulled from. Go click on them. You're not going to find like really slow loading clunky websites. You're just not. So that's one thing that's super important. It needs to be set up properly. It needs to load fast. It needs to have good UI UX. You're not finding like early 2000s looking websites or even really, really good looking websites that are just super slow. It's not pulling from them.
Yeah. So or like websites where everything is sort of buried in like flashy video and there's a million sounds playing or stuff like that. We don't want to do that.
Like page speed, having the right headings and your SEO and your content like that matters. And you reminded me too. So I was just, before we hopped on, I was telling you that I just heard from our product and engineering team yesterday so we're working behind the scenes on making sure, of course, that we are keeping the platform up to date with all of these AI overview changes. That's why our team has been doing a lot of research, keeping up to date on the news and everything, but then we're actually putting that into action behind the scenes in terms of like what we roll out feature-wise. And I know that in just a few more weeks, we should have a new tiny little feature that's very relevant to this conversation, which is an LLMS.text. So that's something that we've been hearing a lot of noise and buzz about in these conversations. It's sort of similar if you're familiar with a robots.txt file or an sitemap.xml. So these are very technical files that we take care of. That you would never see. You would never see it on. It's not a feature. You won't see it in your Carrot account.
Yeah.
Back in.
It's a thing for the search engines to see. And it's a thing that, unless you're a very technical person or whatever, you're probably like, didn't even know it existed. And that's fine. That's the way that we want it. We want to take care of it for you, right?
Yeah.
So llms.txt is a new kind of version of one of these technical files that will help the AI tools like ChatGPT, AI overviews, things like that, to better understand what your site's about, essentially. And so that's something that will be coming soon. We'll be rolling out to all Carrot members. So stay tuned. But just know that we're aware of this and we are adapting and evolving our platform to stay ahead of all these changes so that you can stay ahead too.
Yeah, interesting. That's really cool to hear that's rolling out. And the only thing I would add to that is that I'm not, I don't have data to back this up, but you don't need to tailor your website for specific AI or LLM models, large language models. Like all of the things we're talking about will apply to Google AI mode as it is today, and ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. So as recently, Google AI search is way ramped up. A lot of people using that. They're really going hard on that. The same thing applies to ChatGPT. So you don't need to get into the weeds on well, what do I do for this platform versus that platform? It's all search at this point. Okay, so let's kind of bring it to a wrap here. What are some of the things, if someone's just getting started with their SEO, okay, maybe not just getting started with their SEO, but let's say they've got an established online presence, like some of our members, they've done some SEO, and they're worried about maybe losing ground, or they just want to keep their competitive edge. What are some of the most important things they need to focus on?
Well, I would start with the brand, right? Because that's sort of the foundation of everything when it comes to marketing your business online or off. So if you feel like you have a really good, strong, clear brand identity, and feel like that is clearly expressed in both, visuals and your written voice and video and all of that stuff online, then maybe it's focus more on the offsite efforts and continue to build that brand awareness through billboards, TV advertising, social media, like backlinks, guest post, all of the things. If you feel like you have sort of a generic brand, now is a really good time to start figuring out what makes you and the way that you help people unique and different, and communicating that clearly. I always think of brand as sort of this thing that continues to sort of grow and continue to be refined, just like we as people grow and evolve. And we're sort of always like Michelangelo with the, statue of David, you're chipping away and continuing to refine that. I feel like brand is sort of like that.
I love that. I 100% agree with it. I'm remembering Trevor and I talked about in a while back, one of our Evergreen Marketing Lives, a good way to do that is pull up your website, copy and paste it. At the time, it was copy and paste the text into ChatGPT, but now just give it a link or screenshot the page, throw it in ChatGPT alongside competitors' websites in your area and say, hey, how does my brand standing out versus my competition? What's the overall sentiment about my brand? What makes me unique? I mean, that's the lazy way. You want to understand brand and marketing, but
but what you described is actually a really, really great exercise. And so I would also say, if you're asking, ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of these AI tools, you could also ask it about, who do you think my ideal client or lead is? And who do you think my high client or lead is, right? So that, I think, could also be a really good question to ask it. Ideal client, to me, is one of the foundations of brand. And I think it's one of the things that people often don't have as much clarity as they should for their brand. And I feel like there's always opportunity to continue to refine and improve that. Because it often, as you do more deals, as you get more leads, you get more information about, okay, these people are amazing, and these people fine, and these people I definitely don't want to work with, right? And so continuing to just tweak that messaging and how you communicate to the right people and repel the wrong people. Do that.
Yeah. And make sure your situation pages are dialed in, which goes back to blog posts, our niche authority builder posts, all these different situations. Make sure they're covered. Make sure that you've, made them sound like you, made them unique, added images, all those things.
Yeah. And then with the situation pages and that ideal client, right? And building onto the off page SEO and the off site stuff is how do you then start leveraging PR, publicity, guest posting, talking about how you're the right person to help people in that specific situation off of your website and getting those mentions that like point back to you and your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like how you said you and your brand, like your name and your brand. That matters. I love that. I think the only other thing I would tack on there is to just really make sure all your basics are in place too. Like make sure all your citations are done. You've got your location specific pages, which you could use care for that, auto location pages. Make sure Google Business Profile is up, optimize, up to date, like super easy stuff. Okay. Make these things really easy. So definitely make sure all those boxes are checked before you go optimizing all the other pages on your website. So that's good. Anything else you want to recommend as far as like SEO, AI, brand as we wrap it up?
Ooh, brand. So I was just thinking about this the other day. So one of my all-time favorite kind of brand strategists, thought leaders, authors in this space. So I recommend this book, Fascinate by Sally Hogshead. So good. The subtitle is How to Make Your Brand Impossible to Resist. And so she has this framework that like I think would be really helpful if the whole brand thing is very confusing and you're like, I don't know what makes me different from my competitors. She gives some really good stories and examples. One of the stories that she talks about early on in the book, I think, is about Jaeger, the alcohol, right? That sort of, I think, tastes repulsive personally. I think many people do. But that's one of the things that she talks about, how they almost built this brand on being disgusting and it worked somehow, right? And how strong brands can either pull the right people to them, but often like repel people in a certain way. Like they have this strong point of view, basically. So if you want to learn more about branding, highly recommend Fascinate by Sally Hogshead.
It's so funny. What a funny example. I still go to like metal shows. I listen to a lot of heavier music, and it seems like all the heavy music festivals, like Jägermeister is the big sponsor. Like, what is the deal here? It has its own, they've got their brand dialed in. They know their audience. That's good. Not how I was expecting to wrap, but always fun, always good advice. Hopefully you guys got a lot of tactical stuff out of this. If you want to dive even more into the tactical stuff, or have a reading version, we got a blog post on this. Mallory put it out a little bit ago. So go to carrot.com/blog, check out the blog post. And if you guys have any questions, let us know. Brady@carrot.com. Just send me an email or get in the Facebook group, ask your questions. We'd love to carry on this conversation around AI because it's not going anywhere. There's no quick fixes. If you listen to this podcast episode hoping for a quick hack of like 2 things you could do, I'm sorry, there's no shortcuts.
I don't deal in hacks unless it's the HBO comedy shows.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. That's good. Yeah, no hacks here. We're playing the long game. But anyways, thanks everybody for listening. If you got value out of this, leave us a review, share with a friend, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.